What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Happy Saturday, by the way. Hopefully you guys had a good week behind you guys and a good weekend lined up. For me, it was a freaking really busy week, both in my personal life and in Raid. We had our first parent-teacher conference for my child, and it's really a proud moment when you hear some of those nice things that the teacher says. And my work life has been getting a little bit busier as well. And obviously, Raid was just absolutely absurd this whole week. So it's just been a really busy week. I had a good sleep, and we got some Plarium news here for you guys today on this Saturday. All right, so recently Plarium has been giving us bits of news on the weekend. Now, this is generally a pretty good thing because it gives us a little bit of a head start on the next week's event. And in this case, they gave us quite a bit of detail on the upcoming Heroes Path event that's going to be starting on Monday. So first, we have the Heroes Path event right here. It's in the Plarium Play calendar. It's supposed to be starting on Monday. So far, there's no details in game as of the upload time for this video. But they gave it to us in text form, and I'm going to put that on the screen right now, and it's going to be right here. Hey y'all, this Monday, October 27th, we're planning to launch the Halloween Path event, where you'll have a chance to get the perfect souls for April O'Neil and Raphael, along with other valuable goodies. Now, we thought could have been one or the other when they announced that it was not Leonardo. So first of all, we thought maybe it was Leonardo, and it kind of made a lot of sense. And then they debunked that right away. Well, they debunked that a couple hours after they released the Heroes Path info. So they said it wasn't Leonardo. And then after they said it wasn't Leonardo, we thought, oh, maybe it would be one of the souls for one of the remaining champions that was still available. So the only souls remaining for champions that didn't get an event for it was Raphael, April, and then Leonardo, which would probably get his own event for it anyways later on. So we thought, oh, it could be April, it could be Raphael. So in this case, they confirmed that it's going to be for both, which is pretty interesting. And then it says you'll be able to earn the points by getting artifacts and accessories. So basically dungeon diving or gear hunting or whatever, basically getting artifacts. And then the secondary requirement is summoning champions from shards. Sorry, excuse me. And that's something we know of from the Fusion schedule already. They mentioned that it was going to be shards and dungeon diving. The rewards that you can earn from this event includes April O'Neil's and Raphael's 5-star Perfect Souls, Avatars, and Thorn Golem 75 champion fragments. This event will last 94 hours and 30 minutes. Kind of weird that it's 94 hours and 30 minutes. I wonder if there's anything, special to that. But let's have a quick look at the calendar. If there's anything special happening, there's nothing really happening here unless they're trying to pair, unless this event bleeds into some other event. I don't really see it. They didn't announce. No, they have the chase here. They must, obviously this Heroes Path won't bleed into this champion chase. So I assume that this 30 minutes is just some kind of timing thing that they want to have separated so that the Heroes Path does not bleed into the champion chase next week. I mean, that totally makes sense. Let's have a quick look at the Google Calendar here, actually. Usually this gives us a little bit more insight into what's happening. So when I click the Google Calendar, it says that the Heroes Path event will end on 2 a.m. October 31st. Okay, and then what about the champion chase? When will it start? Let's see. And then when I click the champion chase, it says it will start October 31st at 2 a.m. This is local time, by the way. So basically one ends and one starts. It's kind of weird that it has a 30-minute time thing in it, but it's probably nothing that we need to really look into. All right, cool. So we have 2 souls and then the Titan points up for grabs here. Now let's have a quick talk about these champions, right? Raphael and April here. So Raphael from the Barbarians, he is a DPS champion. So he's a damage dealing champion. He's attack based. I think the biggest draw for him is that he is, he has self-buffing ability, and then he has an A1 block revive. His A3 hits pretty hard and then has self-buffs that make him even more threatening. Obviously, Berserk, Perfect Veil, Unkillable. All make him way more threatening, and of course his A1 is going to be very threatening with the block revive. He has turn meter boost on his A1 and A2 as well, so he can cycle through his abilities. His passive gives him chances to get extra turns, and then he passively places the Berserk buff on himself when basically any champion dies. Raphael, I would still consider him one of the hardest ones to use because he requires good gear, he requires good team, good support around him and all that. The Berserk buff actually gets blocked by Stone Skin as well. So if you build him in Stone Skin, and then he tries to place Berserk buff on him while the Stone Skin buff is up, then it's not going to happen. So it's a little bit anti-synergistic there. And because he doesn't have any built-in survivability, him getting hit first without Stone Skin basically just means he dies. So it's a little bit anti-synergistic. He's not super easy to use, but he is highly effective if you have a good team with him. I did a showcase with him, and I had a really good team with him. And for me, he performed very well. I was having lots of fun with him, but I understand not everyone will have a great team around him. So I think for an end game player, he's a better champion, but for an early game player, he might not do what you need him to do, which is basically just help you progress in the game. Now, will a 5-star soul help him? 5-star soul gives you, resistance and accuracy. He doesn't require accuracy in his kit, so because he doesn't land any debuffs on the enemy, so that's not a huge draw. Getting, obviously a 5-star versus a 4-star is, still a power boost because the blessing goes up. So that might still give you a little bit of value depending on which blessing you choose. But generally for a damage dealer that doesn't require accuracy, getting the 4-star is plenty good because you get the crit damage and then you kind of call it a day. But in this event, it's going to be 5-star or nothing. It doesn't mention anything about getting split souls, doesn't mention anything like that. So 5-star or nothing for Raphael. Personally speaking, I think not many people will go for this, especially people that are starved for resources. It is a shard event, so we can expect probably some kind of progressive event to go alongside this hero's path, which might connect with some of you guys to pull more shards or whatever. In which case, then Raphael's soul could be up for grabs. I would say his soul is significantly more stronger than April's soul because April's just generally, I don't think a very, very strong champion, but April definitely benefits more from her 5-star soul. The reason being that her kit requires accuracy, and getting the 5-star soul give her a nice accuracy bump there. Sorry, I got her. She is from the Secret Order. Yeah, so she does require accuracy. She does place increased accuracy on herself, so she doesn't need crazy amounts of accuracy. But having more is definitely going to be good, especially for the arena. Now, this ability, Nullify and Seal. I like the turn meter steal. I like the turn meter pushback and the steal and all that. I find that the Nullify and Seal debuff don't do enough against the broad range of champions. I like this passive effect, but I feel like the 25% chance, up to 50% chance fully booked is not consistent enough. If this was 100% chance, so if explosive scoop, so if this A2 always happened when an enemy took an extra turn or instant effect, which doesn't really happen too often, I would see this being pretty strong because you're constantly stealing the turn meter and nullifying and sealing off champions that take extra turns. So you really punish those types of champions. But this case, 50% is not consistent enough to rely on. I find that this 4-turn cooldown is not super strong as well. Sorry, it is on a 3-turn cooldown, but it also decreases the turn meter of all enemies instead of giving a boost. And she is a magic affinity, so you can always weak hit this big ability here on her A2. Now I found out her A1 is actually very, very strong. So she has a 75% chance when fully booked of landing all sorts of hard CC on a single target, and then she places Veil on herself. This requires accuracy, so getting the 5-star for her is going to make it easier to hit those accuracy requirements. And her A1 is really, really strong, especially if you're just like using her for like wave content like Faction Wars or Doom Tower or anything like that. Can be really, really strong. Her passive is also really strong as well because this active effect will probably happen almost always every fight. It's on a 3-turn, 2-turn cooldown when fully booked. This will happen almost every fight. It's a turn meter a pushback and requires accuracy as well, further strengthening the argument for a 5-star soul. And then this passive effect has no cooldown, and it's probably going to happen relatively frequently, I guess, because extra turns, skill cooldown decreases, shield increases, HP destroyed, HP swapped, evades. There's a bunch of stuff here that probably happens every fight. So this is going to happen relatively frequently, and it can be very, very strong. And her aura is very good for arena as well. Now, again, I find her generally not super useful, but I think in the right account with the right gear and the right team around her, she can have some use. And I find her being okay for probably progressing players as well, because the A1 Nullify, the plus accuracy helps. Even this might help in some situations, turn meter steal and stuff against even some bosses. Like I found that even for Dark Phase, she can be okay. But I think I'm reaching a little bit when I'm saying that April O'Neil is going to be super useful for even earlier or mid-game progressing players. Now we talked about both champions, so we have Raphael, we have April. Their 5-star souls will be up for grabs. The other path most likely will be 75 Titan points. 75 Titan points. What does that mean for you guys? If you guys are skipping the summon rush that's going on right now, that means that you guys will be basically short 25 fragments. So if you guys are skipping this right now, you guys will be short 25 fragments, which means you need to complete the mandatory 25 that will be in the hero's path, as well as a additional 25 in that hero's path. Now that's going to leave you with 25 kind of floating fragments up for grabs if you guys want to go that route. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, we grab that floating 25 fragments. That allows you to skip one event for the rest of the fusion. Now, looking back at the calendar here, the event that kind of makes sense to skip would be the champion chase, because it would, basically save you a bunch of summons and all that. However, like I said, for the champion chase in my fusion schedule, we will be able to fuse 3 of the fusion epic void champions. So that's going to give you a 1050 point head start on the champion chase. And it most likely will be 2x ancient shards, which is obviously a very good boost for a champion chase. Ancient shards, each one on average, they give you about 50 points each. So you're probably not going to be having to pull too many ancient shards to, basically get the epic milestones. So I would strongly consider probably still participating in this champion chase, just because it's probably going to be pretty easy to do. In which case, which event is probably worth your time to quit, to skip, right? It might be this champion training tournament or event. And if you don't think that your account needs to skip or wants to skip a champion training event, then you have to evaluate whether this 25, last extra fragments in this hero's path is kind of worth more shards, or worth more energy. Now, what do I think is going to be the cost of these path rewards? So the 5-star Raphael, 5-star April, 75 Titan, not Titan, the epic fusion fragments. Personally speaking, from experience, if we're going to do it by energy, it's probably going to cost you somewhere around 50,000 energy just from dungeon diving. So, the gear hunting portion of it, if that's what you want to do, right? And it's going to be a 4-day event. You're going to spread out 4 days of energy. It's going to cost you between 40 and 50,000 energy for each one. I would say each one. Each soul is probably going to cost you between 40 and 50,000 energy. If you're going to do it with sacred shards, it's probably going to cost you around 20. I would say maybe a slight discount, maybe 17, somewhere around there, 17 sacred shards worth. We're definitely not going to see anything under 15. That would be very surprising. If it's under 15 sacred shards for either of the 5-star souls, I would be very, very surprised. And keep in mind that 75 of these Thorn Golem fragments in the hero's path, it's probably not going to be cheap either. Because if you think about it here, the Summon Rush, the equivalent is 6 sacred shards for 25 of these. So if there's 75 in the hero's path, it's probably going to be somewhere around 18. Generally speaking, in the past at least, usually these special events, these extra summon events, these heroes paths are generally slightly cheaper than the summon rush variant. That's why I kind of recommend like skipping summon rushes and going towards these special events, these hero path and whatnot, because generally, or at least historically, they've been slightly cheaper. So even though it costs 6 per 25 in this summon rush, in the hero's path, it could potentially cost like 5.5, for example, right? Just an example, 5.5. But yeah, it's still going to cost you a lot. It's still going to cost you a lot of shards, right? But like I said, there's a dungeon diving component. You can mix in energy, and it's over 4 days, so you can definitely skim off a little bit of the shard requirement there. But I think I would just do the mandatory stuff, get the 50 thorn golems, and then probably just leave the 25 in the air, depending how expensive it's going to be. and then just tackle the rest of the events and participate in the champion chase at the end of the week. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was informative for you guys. I don't think this Heroes Path is going to be particularly super interesting for a lot of people, I think. People are still holding strong for Leonardo. And yeah, it's winding down. There's definitely not a lot of time left. November 13th is going to be the end of the collab. And yeah, at this point, it kind of looks like it probably was some kind of clerical error, because then they put October 7th to the 10th, right? And then it does look like somebody probably put 10/7 instead of 11/7. So November 7th to November 10th, because November 7th would be the last weekend of the collab. And it kind of makes sense at this point, right? Anyways, guys, hold on to your shards if you guys have no interest in those champions and their souls. If you guys are not going for the fusion, I would hold on to your shards as well. We'll probably find out about the progressive event sometime, maybe tomorrow, I would think. And it's got to be a pretty juicy one if, you know, they want us to spend some shards here. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, what you guys are going to do, what you guys are going to do for the weekend. Let me know in the comments. Appreciate you guys watching until the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.